everyone, my name is Marjoy Jimenez, and for our week 3 task in Linguistic 2, I'm going to describe or explain these following terms: the linguistic universal, the universal grammar, the standard English, the Cocker's concentric circles, the accent and received pronunciation, the four major varieties of English, and the Philippine English. So first is, what is linguistic universal? Linguistic universal is a pattern that occurs across languages, potentially all languages. For example, all language have nouns and verbs. That's a linguistic universal. Another linguistic universal is all spoken languages have consonants and vowels. That's what a linguistic universal is. Second is, what is universal grammar? So, it is a theory that suggests that the ability to learn grammar is built into the human brain from birth, regardless of language. This theory is actually credited to Noam Chomsky, who believed that humans are born with an innate ability to learn language, and that he didn't agree the notion that being exposed to a language is enough for a person to become a competent at understanding and producing language. So third is, what is standard language? It is the variety of English language that is used as the national norms. English is the first language of many countries, and each country has its own rules on how to speak English. For instance, here in the Philippines, we have our own standard for speaking English, in which the grammar must be exact, or we have our own accent, whereas when compared to other countries, we can often observe that the structure of their language is different when it is spoken, which however acceptable, since that is also their own standard of English. Next is, explain the different concentric circles of Cocker. Cocker constructed a model of the different uses of English around the world. This model is comprised of three concentric circles, which he labeled the inner circle, the outer circle, and the expanding circle. Countries that are belong to inner circle are United Kingdom, USA or United States of America, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and Anglophone Canada. The English in these countries are classed as first language. The inner circle countries are labeled as normal providing, which means the norms of the English language are produced there. Furthermore, countries that are belong to outer circle are India, Nigeria, the Philippines, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Malaysia, Tanzania, Kenya, then Anglophone South Africa, and Canada. The English in these countries is not spoken natively, but is still maintained as an important language for communication, largely because of the historical reasons. The outer circle countries are labeled as the norm developing, which means the norms produced by the inner circle are further developed in and reproduced in the outer circle. Countries that are belong to expanding circle includes China, Europe, Russia, Japan, Korea, Egypt, and Indonesia. These countries do not hold historical or governmental importance towards English, however, class it as a foreign language. The expanding circle countries are labeled as norm-dependent, which means they depend on the norms produced by the native speakers of inner circle. They generally do not develop or reproduce English. Fifth is, define accent and received pronunciation, or so accent is basically a distinctive way of pronouncing a language, especially one associated with a particular country, area, or social class. It is the way you sound when you speak. Whereas received pronunciation, or RP, is the accent of standard Southern British English. RP speakers avoid non-standard grammatical constructions and localized vocabulary characteristic of regional dialects. Yeah. Furthermore, RP also are regionally non-specific. That is, it does not contain any clues about speakers' geographic background, but it does reveal a great deal about their social or educational background. Next is, describe the four major varieties of English. American English is the form of English used in the United States, and it includes all English dialects used within the United States of America. while British English is the form of English used in United Kingdom. It includes all the English dialects used within the United Kingdom. British English and American English differs in terms of vocabulary, accent, spelling, and grammar. So let's differentiate these English languages, two English languages in terms of vocabulary. So in American English, you would say, for instance, sweater. But in British English, you would say jumper. In American English, you would say airplane, but in British English, you would say aeroplane. In American English, you would also say cookie, but in British English, you would say biscuit. So now let's differentiate these two English languages in terms of accent. If you want to sound more British, don't pronounce, for instance, the single R. For example, in American English, you would say weather, color, short, beer, work. In British English, you would say weather, color, short, beer, and work. Now let's differentiate them in terms of their spelling. The spelling of words in a British way must end with OUR. Examples are color, flavor, neighbor, humor. While the American way, you will not have the U. There will just be OR. Another is ISE is the British way spelling. IZE would be the American way. For example, apologize, organize, recognize, and so on. The British way would be spelled like this, and the American way like this. Grammar in American English, you would say, in terms of grammar, in American English, you would say, I talked with Joy. But in British English, you would say, I talked to Joy. In American English, you would say, on the weekend. But in British English, you would say, at the weekend. In American English, you would say also, I haven't seen her for weeks. But in British English, you would say, I haven't seen her in weeks. So now, let's define what is Australian English. So it is the form of English language used in Australia. In terms of vocabulary, Australian English had a big difference with American English. For instances, arvo in Australian English, it would mean as afternoon in American English. In Australian English, the word Barbie refers to barbecue in American English. Yet the word footy in Australian means football in American. Same as with sunnies in Australian would mean as sunglasses in American English. Brekkie would mean as breakfast in American English as well. Additionally, in terms of spelling, British had and Australian English had sort of similarities. Or the Australian English follows British spelling very closely. Now let's differentiate or explain this African American English. So African American English is the set of English sociolect spoken by most black people in the United States and many in Canada. Most commonly, it refers to a dialect continuum ranging from African American vernacular English to a more standard American English. In terms of sound changes in African American English, they usually pronounce, for instance, the word ask or ask. Like instead of say, I ask him a question, they would say, I ask him a question. In terms of word also, or word order, instead of saying, why aren't they coming? They would say, why they ain't coming. Here, you will notice instead of moving the verb to immediately follow the question word, the speaker often maintain the typical word order of a statement. Furthermore, in terms of lexicon or vocabulary, instead of saying, for instance, I'm fixing to go to the store, you want anything? They would say, I'm finna go to the store, you want anything? You observe the colorful yet descriptive lexicon that are being used in the sentence. Next is describe the Philippine English. Philippine English is any variety of English native to the Philippines. People would say Philippine English or Filipino English is bad. and some people just agree with it. Well, maybe of course, Philippine English is not the same as an American English, since English is not a native language in the Philippines. Today, English has emerged as the Philippines' official language in law and commerce. English in the Philippines took the country to the global setting as it's now turned out to be the foremost language for schooling, and as well taking into account that Filipinos now had used English with the aid of the mass media, the arts, social, business, and political interaction. I guess that would be all. Thank you for watching Professor Alimita Cortesa. Thank you, ma'am.